Hi everybody, it's Richard here and welcome to another video. This one's a follow-up to a video I did back in January where I ranked the Beatles albums, the Beatles UK albums, all 11 of them. And it's generally agreed that there's 13 because I didn't include Magical Mystery Tour or Yellow Submarine because, well, the reasons being one I think is a compilation and two's a soundtrack album. But I thought I would follow that up by ranking the best 13 Beatles solo albums. Now I was originally going to do 11 just along the same as the first video, but I really struggled and I wanted to add two more in anyway because I think they deserve to be there, so I'm actually doing my favourite 13 Beatles solo albums. It is very subjective, of course, you know. A lot of people's lists would be completely different, and there may be the odd shock, well, one shock maybe that's in there. Okay, so I'll start off with my number 13, and I'm going to give it to Paul McCartney and Wings' Red Rose Speedway, and this is a very underrated album. It features the big hit single My Love, which is a little slushy, but I really do like it. The excellent Little Lamb Dragonfly, which is great. The little country number of One More Kiss. And my favourite song off this is only about 2 minutes long, and that's Single Pigeon. I absolutely adore it. It's the first song, side 2. This gets slagged off because of the medley, because obviously everyone compares it to the Abbey Road medley, and it's not a patch, although the last two parts of this medley, which is The Hands of Love and Power Cut, are every bit as good. It's just the first two parts, Hold Me Tight and Lazy Dynamite, are very repetitive and it lets the medley down a little bit, but this is a really good album, and I think I got the double album as well, the reconstructed double album, which is even better, but I thought I would better show this because this is the original release. So that's my number 13. Number 12, and this wasn't actually going to get in. If I had done this a year ago, this wouldn't have been in, but I am putting it in now because I appreciate it more. However, I still think it's rather overrated, and this is George Harrison's All Things Must Pass. This would be my greatest contender for a single album. I think as a single album this would have been brilliant, really good. I love My Sweet Lord and What Is Life, which I think would have been the first Beatles single if they had have stayed together. I also love the Waiting on You All and Apple Scruffs, as well as Bob Dylan's If Not For You. So those are my 5 favourites off this. The rest of it is it's okay, it's not bad. My problem with George Harrison is I find his voice very sleepy. Well, I'll put it this way, I find it hard to stay awake through a full George Harrison album. I'm not the biggest fan of his voice. I think his voice works well if he has 1, 2, possibly 3 songs on an album, just like the Beatles. But I struggle to get through a George Harrison album. But if this had been a single album, it would be much higher up. Instead, it's a triple album. Well, we'll forget about the third disc, it's just a jam. But I think it's stretched too much over the 2 discs. I know I'm in the minority here, but it's just my thoughts. I'm never that keen, but I played it recently over the past few months in the car and I've got to appreciate it a lot more. But there's still some songs that I'm just not keen on, like Beware of Darkness and even the title track All Things Must Pass. They're okay, but they're not brilliant. But still, it's not a bad album. My number 11 then would go to John Lennon's Walls and Bridges, and I think this is a pretty good album. I do like Whatever Gets You Through the Night, although it's really in your face. It's a real hectic song. Maybe there's too much put into it, but I still do enjoy it. Number 9, Dream, is wonderful. Going Down on Love is a great opener. Steel and Glass is a great song. Nobody Loves You When You're Down and Out is an absolutely excellent song as well. It's a good album. Not all of it works, but I do like the What You Got, which is a really good John Lennon rocker. I think why this is quite good as well is because there's less of a Yoko influence, and not all the songs I think are directed at Yoko. This was done around the time of his drinking weekend with Harry Nilsson and so forth. But yeah, it's a good album, and that gets my number 11. Number 10, I'm going to go back to George Harrison again, and this is his self-titled album from 1979, and this is really good. The songwriting on this is very, very strong indeed. I adore the song If You Believe. I think that should have been a single. I really do. I think it would have been a big hit. Faster's great. Blow Away is a good single, as is Love Comes to Everyone. I do like the version of Not Guilty here. I prefer this to the Beatles version. And Soft, A Sweet Dark Lady, Soft Touch. It's a very, very strong album, really good. Unfortunately, after this, all his albums I thought sounded similar. This is like the archetypal George Harrison album. This is the standard George Harrison album, but it's the one with the best quality songwriting. I do like Gone Tropo as well, because he did try something a little bit different with the instrumentation and the production. But no, this gets my number 10. Number 9, and I'm going to give it to London Town by Wings. This I've really got to like this of late, especially the song More Smooth, and is it More Smooth and The Grey Goose? Yeah, I was going to say The Lost Goose there. But you know, it's a really, really warm album. It's very acoustic. I enjoyed Denny Lane's songs on here as well. The only song I don't like off this is Girlfriend. I don't like the very high falsetto voice, and I have to say Michael Jackson's version is better. The song Don't Bring You Down, or Don't Let It Bring You Down, I think is like Mull Kintyre Part 2, and I think it's wonderful. Name and Address is a great little Buddy Holly rocky number, and probably one of the most classic Wings songs is Cafe on the Left Bank. Really strong album, and that's why it gets my number 9. Number 8, and I'm going to go with John Lennon, Plastic Ono Band. This is good, but it's depressing as hell. I don't like everything off this. I can't stand the song Well, Well, Well. It goes into Yoko Ono territory here with all the screaming. But it's the quieter songs that I really do enjoy, like Look at Me and Hold On John. God is an absolute classic. Mother is great as well, but again it goes on a little bit too long. I found out it's just a very, very strong album. It's a very heartfelt album, but you have to be in the mood to listen to this, and that gets my number 8. Number 7, and it's John again, and it's Imagine. This is a really strong album. My favourite song off this is Oh My Love, which I absolutely adore. Imagine is an absolute classic song, well, we all know that. Jealous Sky's great, but again it's a little bit too long. The only song I don't like is How Do You Sleep. I can't listen to it. The music's great, it's a good song, but I can't take the words at all, so it gets skipped. And I'm not keen on I Don't Want to Be a Soldier, but the rest of this album is stellar. Give Me Some Truth is an absolutely wonderful, brilliant song. So Imagine gets my number 7. Number 6, and I'm going to go with Ram, and this is from this album that he wrote, How Do You Sleep, because this is the one with Too Many People. Yeah, Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey. Is it silly? I don't care if it is. I absolutely love it. I also love Heart of the Country. Backseat of My Car is an absolute classic, and I do like the two Ramones. Monkberry Moon Delight. It's a really strong album. I've always liked this. I know in recent years it's really gone up the critics list, but I've always thought this was a very, very strong album, and I couldn't understand why people didn't like it. I first heard this in the early 80s and I thought, yeah, this is great. My brother always said this is the one that the critics hated and nobody liked, but I could never understand why. So this is Ram, and that gets my number 6. Okay, so the top 5. Okay, and now this is where the shock comes in, and I can't help it. I just love this album, and my 5th one is Pipes of Peace. I adore Say Say Say, I adore Pipes of Peace. So Bad, he does the falsetto really well. Keep Undercover sounds like something ELO would have done around Secret Messages, or even the Moody Blues would have done around Long Distance Voyager. Average Person is silly but it's fun, and I love The Sweetest Little Show in Town. The Man everyone slags off with Michael Jackson, but I think it's a good pop song, and I do like the two sort of instrumentally dancey ones like Hey 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 and Tug of Peace. I think it's a fantastic album, I really do. Maybe it's because whenever this came out I was 17 years old, and you know, pop music, whenever you got an album you listen to it and you listen to it and you listen to it, and it's really got deep inside me. I adore it. Brilliant album, and that's my number 5. And my number 4 then is one before it, Tug of War. Now, the two of them I would put more or less the same. The only reason I'm putting this above Pipes of Peace is because of the two songs, Tug of War and Wanderlust, which are two of McCartney's finest ever. And I'm talking about the Beatles here as well. They're two of his best ever songs. Take It Away is a fantastic single. Not overly keen on Ebony and Ivory, although I do prefer just the solo version that you got, I think, on the B-side of the 12-inch. Ballroom Dancing, that was a single shouting out, release me, but never happened. Get It is a great little rockabilly number. What's That You're Doing is just really a Stevie Wonder song with a Paul voice on it, but it's really good. And The Pound is Sinking is the most underrated song off this. It's like two songs stitched together, but excellent. I love this album, and that's my number 4. So number 3, and my favourite John Lennon album is Mind Games. This is his masterpiece for me. I think this is wonderful. There's not a bad song off it. Out the Blue is one of his most beautiful ballads. Intuition is a great pop song. Mind Games, great opener. Tight As is a great like little rock and roll number. Bring On the Lucy is his Power to the People, but a little bit more subtle than Power to the People, but it's so infectious. Even One Day at a Time, and he does the falsetto, I think works really well. Love this album. It's the first John Lennon album I ever heard, and it's my favourite. So number 2, and I'm going to go with Band on the Run. This to me is the closest of all the solo albums to a Beatles album. Band on the Run is just a masterpiece, as is Jet is a fantastic song. But I think, you know, this sounds like a Beatles album. Let Me Roll It sounds like a John Lennon song with that cold turkey guitar. The song No Words, I think sounds so much like George Harrison. That it really does. It's just the way the song's arranged sounds as if it could have come from a George Harrison solo album. And if there was ever a song for Ringo to sing, it was Picasso's Last Words. But this is really good. Mrs. Vanderbilt is so catchy, as is Bluebird is a beautiful little song. It's not as good as Blackbird, but it's still a great song. And then it finishes off with 1985, which is a great funky number. I also love the acoustic-y Mamunia, which could easily have come from the White Album. Brilliant album, absolutely brilliant album, and it's the one that brought Paul really back, you know, not from the dead, because he was still very, very popular, but I think the critics really saw this guy can write songs. It's not just fluff, so that's Band on the Run is my number 2. And my favourite solo Beatles album is McCartney. Now I will admit that the songs off Band on the Run are better, but the reason why I love this is one of the warmest albums I've ever heard. This was recorded around the time of the Beatles split. He was under so much pressure, and it looked as if he was having fun. He was sort of blowing off steam, and there are little snippets of unfinished songs, but it works so well. But you've got two absolute blinding classic McCartney songs here, Every Night, which is wonderful, and obviously Maybe I'm Amazed. But you have the little country number of Man We Was Lonely, which is great. That Would Be Something is one of his little best riffs ever. It would have been great if that one had been extended into a full proper song. But then part of me thinks that this is so raw that it sounds so good that it shouldn't be touched. Even the instrumentals like Hot as Sun is great, and The Junk, which is fantastic. The one I'm not overly keen on, now there's Keen Agora, which nobody likes, which I do actually quite like, but the weakest of the songs for me is Teddy Boy, which was I think demoed around the time of the White Album and never made it. It's okay, but as a whole this is the album that does it for me, and I absolutely adore this album. So this is McCartney's debut album. So that's my top 13 solo Beatles albums. I know a lot of people, as I say, will have a completely different list. But for me, if I had to save 13 solo albums, those are the 13 I would pick. Okay, that's me for now. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope to have another video quite soon. All the best now. Bye bye.